Bitcoin seems to be kind of in a sideways channel since mid-January. Your take on that?
Yeah, so very quiet in Bitcoin. I mean, if you look at the chart, it's especially recently, it's, initially had these bigger moves here, and now it's kind of getting smaller and smaller. Now, on a technical pattern formation, this is actually a bearish flag pattern formation. So again, just for people to understand, you had a big move down here, and then this is all inside bar consolidation going on, right? So this is sideways chop in the lower range of a bigger move down. If you looked at 1,000 of this pattern on charts at random, you would see that probably 70+% end up breaking sharply lower. So it's just a matter for me of time until Bitcoin makes another leg lower. I'm looking at over the next 4 days for being a key pivotal time factor. So just keep an eye on the next 4 days in Bitcoin, but we may start to see the next leg lower on Bitcoin sooner than expected. And I'm in the camp where I really do think that you're going to take out this longer term trend line, and you could go as low as 20 or sub 20,000 over the next 6 to 12 months in Bitcoin. Yeah, wonderful. So I would just say, just be careful in this market environment. It's a market that's much more volatile than the last few years. So make sure that you're aware of that as an investor, and you're careful because of that. Money can vanish very, very quickly in the stock market these days, as well as in crypto.
We see that inflation is continuing to rise. How high do you see it getting if the Fed can't get it under control?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think inflation probably gets, I think the PPI recently was about 10%. So my guess is you see a little bit more upside because of the recent spike in oil. So oil, the PPI number, I don't believe factored in the recent pop in oil, because it's usually a lagging something. It's like of the last month. So I do think you're probably going to about 12%. But I do think at that point you'll start to see inflation coming in, and the Fed will be lauded, right? People are going to say, "Oh, look at the Fed; they're bringing in inflation," and it's going to come down to probably 5% or so over the next 12 months. And then I think it's going to start to be here to stay. And I think you have years of higher inflation than the Fed wants. But the problem is the economy isn't going to be able to survive with 4 or 5% or 6% interest rates. And therefore, the Fed is just going to have to figure out, okay, which is the worst case here? Do I want to leave inflation high, or do I want unemployment? Inflation comes down, but then unemployment jumps because we're hiking rates. And it's a conundrum. It's a mess. And it's going to be something that the Federal Reserve is going to have to deal with for years and years to come.
If we do focus again on the Fed's decision, we've seen an impact on 10-year yields. Do you want to share that with us at the moment?
I do have a target price of where I think yields are going to go before we see a bigger pullback, all the way back to 1994. Okay, you could even argue that you could extend it even further back here, right? So you could even go back to 87, which, by the way, the crash of 87 occurred. And you could argue and say that the Fed was so freaked out that they said, okay, never again. And they've been weak on interest rates ever since. But if you look at this, you're actually getting closer and closer to this long-term trend line. It looks to me to be just around 2.45%. Considering we're at 2.3 now, that's very close. We get one more update like today on yields, and we're going to hit that. And then I actually do have it priced in that we should head back down to 2.2, maybe 2.15 on interest rates, maybe even lower. There's a decent chance that we could even retrace back to the high ones before putting in a low pivot. So you might say, well, what's going to cause that? Well, you could argue that, if the conflict in Russia and Ukraine, if that starts to spread a little bit, the Fed is going to have to be even more cautious on raising rates. If the economy starts to show signs of weakness, they're going to have to be even more cautious. And the market, the interest rate market, will start to reflect that by bringing rates down as well. So lots of possibilities here, but the yields are getting to a point where you should expect them to stall out right around 2.45%. Oh, so normally, if you look at the last 2 years, 3 years or so, dropping interest rates has been a benefit to the stock market, right? Stock markets go up when yields are declining. My only fear is that if yields are dropping because the economy is starting to tank and the Fed can't print money to save it because it'll increase inflation to 15 or 20%, does the stock market react like the same way? And I don't think it does. I think the markets are now fully aware that with 10% inflation, you just can't turn on the printing presses again with that type of inflation potentially going higher. So I think if you see yields falling, it's actually could be a negative for the stock market. Yeah, really fun to watch. I love watching the charts play out, and it is exciting. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I think it depends on your time horizon, right? So if you're someone like me who's a shorter term investor, then you do want to make sure you try to get close to the lows. But if you're someone who has a 5-year time horizon or even a 3-year time horizon, I don't think, the difference of $50 on gold makes that much of a difference. So again, I think in each individual, like I run the risk of missing the trade, but I'm a short-term trader, so there's always another trade.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where do you start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.